My name is Melissa Hortman, Speaker Emerita in the House. We were really proud in 2023 to pass paid family medical leave. And the reason is we know that Minnesotans deserve the security of paid leave in order to care for themselves and their loved ones. Now we're standing with workers and business owners who are making it clear to House Republicans that we cannot afford to delay this benefit any longer. Every other industrialized nation in the world has figured out how to offer family and medical leave. 12 other states and Washington, D.C. offer paid leave. This isn't some new idea. It's similar to unemployment insurance. And Minnesotans have waited long enough. There's no reason to delay paid family medical leave. Republicans are just making it clear that they don't want to delay. They want a full repeal. They've introduced bills that would repeal the program entirely. Democrats aren't going to let either of those things happen. We will continue working alongside Minnesotans to build a future where everyone can get ahead, not just the rich and powerful. Now I'll turn it over to Representative Frazier.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Cedric Frazier. I represent District 43A, which is the cities of Crystal and New Hope in our northwest suburbs. You know, at its core, paid family and medical leave is about recognizing and upholding human dignity. It acknowledges the people are not just workers, they're family members, caregivers, and individuals with inherent needs. To force someone to choose between their job and caring for a newborn, a dying parent, or their own serious health condition strips them of that fundamental dignity. It denies their right to attend to the most basic human experiences. A paid leave program says, we see you, we value your humanity, we understand that life happens and we'll support you through it. All Minnesotans deserve the freedom to care for themselves and people they love, and they should have to sacrifice food. They shouldn't have to sacrifice food on their plate, health in their body, or a roof over their head to have it. Now, over the past decade, Minnesotans have come to the Capitol and testified at hearings, shared personal stories, and advocated consistently for these protections and a safety net. Despite this overwhelming public support, Republicans continue to ignore their voices in favor of corporate interests that prioritize short-term profit margins over workers' well-being and family stability. Minnesota Democrats have worked collaboratively with communities, small businesses, and stakeholders to build a system that values our complete humanity, not just our economic contributions. Today, House Republicans are pushing to repeal this legislation entirely. Their proposal would strip Minnesotans of crucial protections during their most vulnerable moments. My DFL colleagues and I will continue to fight alongside Minnesotans to protect our paid leave law. Thank you. And up next, we have Chris Rubich from Minnesota Nurses Association.
Thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Chris Rubich. I'm the president of the Minnesota Nurses Association. When MNA joined with our fellow unions and community partners to help fight for the paid family leave program, it's because we knew that this wasn't a benefit that we wanted to just negotiate into our contracts. This was a benefit that every Minnesota worker deserved. We knew that we needed to raise our voices with others across our community to make sure that every Minnesota worker was fortunate enough to be able to not have to make a difficult choice. All of us will, at one point in our lives, be one of two things, either a caregiver or someone needing care. And we shouldn't only have to go down that road if we're fortunate enough to be in a union and be able to negotiate this into our contract. We as Minnesotans should be able to extend a hand and honor the humanity and needs of everyone in our community. And that's why we're proud to be here again today with our fellow unions and coalition partners to raise our voices and say, no, enough. We want to protect this benefit. So if you're hearing this today, please call your state senator, call your state representative, tell them how important this is to you. We cannot wait. We have waited more than a decade, and enough is enough. Minnesotans are waiting for this benefit. Families are struggling to meet the needs of their loved ones. And we're really proud to stand here together and say all Minnesotans deserve this benefit. So thank you so much for being here, and we will continue to make sure that every Minnesotan gets the care that they deserve. So thank you so much, and I will invite up our next speaker, Claudia Gordon from Isaiah.
Good morning. My name is Claudia Gordon in St. Paul. I have a son, Hunter, who is 40 years old. He is married and has 3 children, ages 13, 10, and 7. 6 years ago, he was diagnosed with brain cancer, glioblastoma, grade 4 and aggressive. He had surgery within 2.5 days, did chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and wore an Optune device. But there is no cure for brain cancer. All we can do is pray for a miracle, hope for a miracle. And if that miracle does not come about, then we have people. My 2 daughters relocated here to help in this battle for against Hunter's cancer. And paid family medical leave joined us in our battle against brain cancer 2 years ago. And we still have to wait 10 more months for it to be started. And now they want us to have us start a year longer. We can't wait. Our time might run out. We want the chance as a family to take care of Hunter in his home. Hunter deserves to be taken care of in his home by his family. Please do not delay the start of paid family medical leave. Thank you. And Aaron is next.
Good morning. My name is Erin Thompson. I'm an English teacher at Egan High School and the mother of a 10-month-old daughter named Judy. I'm here this morning imploring our state leaders to not delay Minnesota paid leave law. This law is crucial for Minnesota's teachers, parents, and children. When I began teaching 7 years ago at 28 years old in Champaign, Illinois, a mentor teacher took me aside and asked if I wanted to have kids. She told me, "Your sick days aren't sick days. You can stay home sick when your kids are grown. Those days are your maternity leave." So I saved my days. A few years later, my husband accepted a job in Minnesota, so we packed up our house in Illinois. I applied for a Minnesota teacher's license, and I lost all those days in the move. It's back to square one. When we decided to start our family, I had trouble conceiving. Anyone who's struggled with infertility knows that that means a lot of appointments. I essentially had to choose between appointments to navigate my PCOS and a hoped-for future maternity leave. When I finally got pregnant, I had 12 sick days. You can bet I guarded them jealously. I delayed doctor-recommended care throughout my pregnancy. When we learned that Judy was breech, I couldn't avoid using sick time. As I was in the hospital for an ECV, an incredibly painful procedure, I was in the waiting room stressed out that I was burning a day of leave. At the second procedure, when we learned it was going to be impossible to flip her because her cord was wrapped around her neck, I cried because I would need a C-section, but I also cried because I had wasted 2 days on a failed procedure. Judy was born 2 weeks early via emergency C-section. I had 10 days of paid leave to be with her. 5 of those days was spent in the hospital. It wasn't enough. Giving birth is not a health-neutral event. After 10 days, I couldn't walk down the hall, let alone manage a room full of 33 teenagers. Teachers devote their lives and careers to serving our communities and nurturing the minds that will serve society in the future. We take care of the community's children. We deserve time to take care of our own. There is a teacher shortage sweeping the country. If Minnesota wants to attract and retain high-quality teachers, the state needs to be a place where our educators are treated with dignity and respect. The state needs to be a place where teachers can imagine building their families' futures. At Egan High School, we teach our students to lead by example. If Minnesota aspires to be a leader in education, if our state leaders value our families, we must protect paid family leave. Thank you. Jessica Peterson.
Hi, I'm Jessica Peterson-White. I own Content Bookstore and Kids Content in Northfield, and I'm also a Northfield City Councilor. I've been testifying in this issue since I was pregnant with my second child. Now I have 3 kids. That second child is going into 4th grade this fall. And so I've had 2 of those babies since starting a business a decade ago. They've slept under the counter, and I've nursed them in the basement of my bookstore. And because paid leave hasn't been available to me, I've often had to make painful trade-offs between investing in my business and caring for my kids. Some folks who claim to represent the interests of Minnesota businesses will try to tell you that paid family and medical leave is bad for business. As a thriving small employer and retailer, I'm here to tell you that it is just the opposite. My business needs this program urgently in order to compete on a level playing field with bigger employers. I provide great jobs with good benefits, and many of my younger employees would like to keep working for me and have kids. But without a paid family and medical leave program, they're likely to leave us when it's time for them to start a family, because big businesses have a bigger pool and they can provide paid leave. Employers and lobbyists who've claimed this benefit is nothing more than a new expense for business are clearly not quantifying the costs we're already suffering without this kind of coverage. Do they not hire people with children or aging parents? Or do they just expect moms to come to work a couple of weeks after giving birth? I wonder how that's working out for their workforce. I'm happy to invest in paid leave because it will provide stability to my team when we need it. My employees fully understand this system. So does my bookkeeper and my CPA, and so do I. And we are beyond ready to start using it. It's time to stop the delay tactics and move into the 21st century, where we can all agree that babies shouldn't go to daycare a few weeks after they're born, and that nobody should have to choose between caring for their family and a paycheck. Minnesotans are ready for paid family leave, and they're ready now.
And we have Jessica Peterson-White.
That was me.
Oh, that was you, sorry, Jessica. Jackie Lane.
Sorry.
Hi, I'm Jackie Lane, and I'm here as a parent and representative of Take Action Minnesota to say parents can't wait. We need to preserve the 2026 launch date of the paid family medical and leave program. The delay as proposed in this bill is unnecessary and harmful to Minnesota families. Over the past 2 years, we have mobilized thousands of parents and caregivers in support of policies that Minnesotans desperately need: paid sick days, paid family medical leave, and affordable child care. After having my first child, Ren, I took out student loans to survive during the 12 weeks I stayed home with her. When combined with 3 months of lost wages and loan interest, my maternity leave totals at a cost of around $17,000. $17,000 of money I do not have, simply so I can stay home and care for my newborn. At 16 months old, Ren was diagnosed with medical conditions that required 3 surgeries, 3 months in a full body cast, and 3 months of physical therapy 3 times a week, all so she could take her first steps at age 2. My partner traveled for work to support us. And if I had had paid family and medical leave then, I would not have had to be raising my child alone under these conditions. Paid family and medical leave is one of the most meaningful ways that we can support working families in Minnesota. I needed this program back in 2020 as much as it is needed in 2026. Thank you. Senate Majority Leader Erin Murphy.
Thank you for sharing your story. I'm really grateful for everybody who shared their story, and it's really lovely to have babies here with us today, a proof point. I am Erin Murphy. I am the Majority Leader in the Minnesota Senate. After a decade's worth of work, the legislature in 2023 passed paid family medical leave to support working families across the state of Minnesota, and we're going to keep it. It's not going away. The Chamber of Commerce, of course, a very well-heeled organization of corporate interests, would like to repeal it, and they've made that very clear. But we're steadfast in our support for this legislation. This week is forecast week, and we are going to get the state's next increment of information before we set the state's budget. We know across the state that people are struggling with health care and long-term care. One of the best things that we did in 2023 was enact paid family medical leave, which allows families to care for their own members, their family members, and keep their jobs, as I was able to do when my mom was dying, thanks to the Minnesota Nurses Association. I will never, ever forget my ability to maintain my obligation to my mom and to my family and keep my job. Last night in St. Paul, we had a very, very unexpectedly crowded town hall meeting at a church on Snelling Avenue. Margaret and Ashley joined us at this town hall with their husbands and their 5 children together. There were 5 little kids who wanted to wait and talk to me at the end of the town hall meeting. Ashley had testified in support of paid family medical leave in 2023 in the State and Local Government Committee, and she came last night to make sure that I was going to fight to keep the program in place, and I promised her that I would. It is important to her family. It's important to families across the state. It's important to workers across the state. It's important to employers across the state, because we shouldn't have to choose between our job and our family. That's why we're going to fight for it. And I'd like to introduce now the Senate author and my colleague, Dr. Senator Elise Mann.
Morning, everyone. I'm Senator Elise Mann from Senate District 50. There is no downside to paid family and medical leave. It decreases maternal morbidity and mortality. It decreases preterm births. It decreases the rates, or it increases the rates of breastfeeding. It decreases clinic visits. It decreases hospitalizations for infants. It decreases pneumonia, gastrointestinal infections, ear infections, and other respiratory infections for infants. It helps close the gender gap in the workplace. It decreases the need for long-term care and for childcare. It increases profitability and productivity for businesses. It keeps people in the workforce, as it increases employee retention and decreases employee turnover. I could go on. There is a body of scientific research that backs this up, and I know because I carried a very large box filled with these studies to 9 committees in 2023 as this bill passed through the Senate. There is no downside to paid leave policies. Hence the reason the entire world has paid leave, except for the United States of America. Paid leave is a very important piece of policy because it evens the playing field between the wealthy and the working class. And it is no coincidence that Republicans are vehemently opposed to paid leave, because unfortunately, Republicans are now the party of the wealthy. The party of corporate health care and corporate monopolies, the party of the uber wealthy, of the billionaires, the party of big pharma. And so to pass a policy that says that we are now going to afford the basic need of taking care of each other to every single person, the basic need of taking care of each other that Republicans will have you believe is a luxury that only they get to have, is a slap in the face to them. And that is why they want to delay it and repeal it and gut it and not have it be available to the rest of the world and the rest of Minnesota. I will have you know that this is the same party that just voted to gut Medicaid, to take away health care from the most vulnerable people across the country, pregnant women and their babies, the elderly. So I hope that none of us are sitting here surprised that they also want to gut and repeal paid leave, because unfortunately this is what we have come to expect from the Republican Party. But as my colleagues have said before me, we are going to stand firm behind this policy because we believe that taking care of each other is something that we all deserve to do, and we are going to fight for that. So thank you for being here.
Questions?
Nerdy here, Senator Mann. Your new rate is what?
0.88,
0.88, still under the cap,
very much so.
but getting closer. Can you react to what that rate came out and whether you think it's adequate, what's needed to do this program?
So that rate is not new, it's not a surprise, that's what the actuarial study said last year. So it's exactly where we thought it was going to be, well under the cap. It's what has been the average around most other states. Again, 0.44% is what people are gonna pay, slightly more than a cup of coffee, so that we can stay home and take care of our new babies, take care of our spouses in their last days of life, our parents. Small price to pay so that we can all take care of each other.
I thought the actuary was 0.7.
No, there was multiple different ones depending on which policy. So the 0.88 was the policy that we chose with the retroactive payment.
Are there any changes or tweaks that need to be made to the program before it launches next year?
As of this moment, there are no changes and no tweaks. We are ready to go.
How do Democrats plan to handle any electoral pressure from this program? So, like, in most states, there have been hiccups in the first weeks that it rolls out. And 2026 is an election year. So how do Democrats plan to handle that if there are hiccups?
We have confidence in the department deed that is working on the implementation, and the person who's doing this has done it in other states, and the best way we avoid hiccups is not tweaking or changing the law in this session.
Senator Murphy, can you say, you mentioned the forecast. It could get worse on Thursday. Is there any concern that I think it was $670 million that was put into to seed this program so you can start benefits on January 1st? Are you concerned at all that fund could be threatened as the legislature tries to balance the budget if Thursday kicks off?
I am looking forward to Thursday and the news that we're going to get, but we have made a strong and firm commitment to paid leave, and that fund is intact and protected.
I'd also just like to add that, remember, in the current biennium that we're ending on June 30th, there's a projected $3.7 billion cash surplus on top of a $3.5 billion reserve account, which is the largest reserve in Minnesota history. In the next biennium, it'll be very interesting to see how the forecast changes here, but we have a projected surplus of $1.5 billion. We can choose to spend $900 million of it in inflation to keep level programming across the state, and we'd still have $616 million surplus. It is those long tails, it is the out years, and I think all of us are concerned about the chaos at the federal level and the impact that the federal cuts could have, but I don't think we'll know what Congress is actually going to do with their budget until October. But the most important fact for Minnesotans to focus on is in the very near term, the positive cash balance that Democrats are leaving at the end of this biennium, which means we are ready to go on paid family medical leave.
Is it possible to touch those funds that are dedicated to, like, the 680 and then the 128 for administrative costs? Is it possible for the legislature to touch those funds that are dedicated to paid leave?
Not with the political alignment that we have. The Senate is not going to touch it. The governor's not going to touch it. And so the Republicans have 1/6 of state power. Democrats in the House are not going to be voting for a bill that delays or reduces paid family medical leave. So there simply aren't the votes to change the program.
Speaker Horton, could you talk more generally about what we're going to see for the next 2 weeks? Because I think it's about 2 weeks until you get most likely your tie back. What the House Republicans are doing at this time, they're not able to pass bills, but they are able to bring bills to the floor. Can you just give me your observations on what they're doing and how you think that plays politically or how it
Well, I think they know how to use the time well. I heard Representative Bakeberg this morning on a Minnesota Public Radio story saying he was happy about the work that they were doing on the absenteeism task force. And he thought it was important that we looked at this nonpartisan environment and the work we can actually do together. I think we'll have a good and productive 2 weeks if Republicans focus on those areas where we can do work together.
Well, today, it sounds like they're bringing up.
We're going to be having a press conference at noon today to talk about what they're doing today, but this is about paid family medical leave. Happy to talk about that at noon.
But they're not all bipartisan bills.
They sure aren't. But they know the recipe for success and they're choosing to ignore it, at least today.
Are you guys gonna put up any votes for that bill?
We'll talk about that at noon, but no. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.